From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Wednesday, April 2nd, and here are today's headlines. The Vermont House has approved a bill that allows some state and public officials to protect their personal information on the internet. Backers of the bill say it's become far too easy to discover anyone's personal information, including their home address, using data brokers on the internet. The bill allows judges, law enforcement officials, and a number of social service state employees to request that their information not be disclosed. Bradford Representative Monique Priestley says some of these officials have already faced threats of violence because of the cases they've worked on.
Public officials across this state have faced threats. These threats often go unreported because the targets fear further exposure. Don't let silence mask reality. The
measure now goes to the Senate for its consideration. Vermont's leading healthcare regulator says the state's healthcare system is at a breaking point. Owen Foster chairs the Green Mountain Care Board. It's an independent organization that regulates health insurance rate increases and reviews hospital budgets. Yesterday on Vermont Edition, he said he expects Vermont's largest insurer, Blue Cross Blue Shield, to request rate increases of 15 to 20%.
What that does to our small business and economic growth, our demographics, people's family bank accounts, it's simply devastating. It's not acceptable. It's not sustainable. So if we're going to avoid a 15 or 20% rate increase, we have to reduce healthcare spending by several hundreds of millions of dollars really quickly.
Foster says insurers will submit their rate requests to the board at the beginning of May. A private therapeutic school in southern Vermont serving autistic students has essentially been warehousing kids without educating them and overcharging the public school districts that send them their students. Those are the conclusions of an investigation conducted by the Vermont Agency of Education this fall. A report written by state investigators was finalized this winter and provided to Vermont Public following a public records request. Vermont Education Secretary Zoe Saunders wrote to the Inspire School in Brattleboro last week to warn them they would soon need to come into compliance with state rules or face the loss of their ability to serve publicly funded special education students. A University of Vermont study has found that dead trees and streams keep a surprising amount of carbon out of the atmosphere. As Vermont's forests age, streams could store 4 to 5 times what they do now in downed wood. William Keaton is a forest ecology professor at UVM and an author on the study.
As it turned out, these logs, large logs that fall into streams and then accumulate over time, store a lot more carbon than we had ever previously realized.
Keaton says Vermont should consider strengthening protections for large trees right along stream banks. And he says carbon markets, which pay landowners to store carbon, would do well to account for this trapped carbon. As the planet warms, Keaton says New England's aging forests have great potential to take carbon back out of the air. And a Vergennes living space for older Vermonters has welcomed its first residents since expanding. The 38-bed Vergennes residential care home in the city's downtown has officially grown into the 88-bed Vergennes Grand Senior Living Complex. The Addison Independent reports the new facility includes a 23-bed memory care unit, and up to 40% of residents will be supported by Medicaid. The project has been 6 years in the making. Coming up, more on older Vermonters who make up a large cohort of people who suffer from dementia. Vermont Public's Nina Keck introduces us to some video streaming services specifically designed to help people with Alzheimer's disease, and that are proving to be useful for their caregivers as well. That's after this. Most of the 13,000 Vermonters who've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease live at home. If you're one of their caregivers, you're probably exhausted, so it can be tempting to put your loved one in front of the television when you need a break. But regular programming doesn't always work well. Vermont Public's Nina Keck says there are actually video streaming services specifically designed for people with dementia and their caregivers.
Allison Schreier says her husband was diagnosed with frontal lobe dementia when he was just 47.
As a family caregiver, I lived, as many family caregivers do, in fear.
Fear of when he would become agitated or upset, and fear about her own well-being as a caregiver with 2 young children. As her husband's condition worsened, she also grew increasingly frustrated trying to find things they could do together. So she started creating slow-moving videos for him on her iPad.
and that we could talk about the images that were going, because they were going by slowly, and we could talk about what we were seeing. I could pause them and we could talk about them in more detail. There was music in the background, and I thought, well, yeah, how do you do that at scale?
It took several years to research and develop, but Schreier co-founded Zinnia TV in 2022. It's a streaming service with hundreds of slow-paced, plot-free videos, like this one called Hawaiian Breeze. There are no confusing characters to keep track of and no jarring commercials, just eye-popping footage of exotic birds, flowers, and waterfalls. There's a 10-minute video called Let's Talk About Picnics, others about animals, gardening, and babies, lots of babies.
And the idea is that we want people to be able to pause and reminisce and say, wow, I remember that.
Another streaming service designed for people living with dementia is Memory Lane TV, which also came out in 2022.
The films are shot in ultra high definition, and it's very captivating visually.
This is Nick Vitti. He's an occupational therapist at the Cedars, a senior living community in Portland, Maine. This video is taking the viewer soaring over a breathtaking hillside.
We have residents that aren't able to engage easily in a lot of things. They are engaged by Memory Lane TV, as is frequently the staff who stop in and will watch for 2 or 3 minutes at a time. It's very calming.
The videos aren't meant to be used all the time, says Vitti, but in addition to other activities like music, physical movement, foods, crafts, and games. Different videos are geared for different times of day, he says. More lively programs of couples dancing or people playing baseball might work better at midday.
And then maybe after dinner, you're watching some of these like long shots of beautiful fall foliage or even scenes that transition into night.
He says that can be a helpful and gentle reminder for someone who can no longer tell time. Subscriptions start around $8 to $10 a month, and both companies offer lots of programming to support caregivers. Allison Schreier points to their daily activities channel that has videos to encourage things like drinking water, eating lunch, brushing teeth, and washing. Mundane things that she says can become fraught as dementia progresses.
If we're going to shower to get ready for the day, I can just show the shower video and say, look at these people. What are they doing? Wow, that water looks so warm and comfortable. Ooh, maybe we should shower. That might be a good idea.
These products have a lot of potential good, right? But you can't just turn it on and think it's going to fix everything.
Tammy Bickmore is an assistant clinical professor in occupational therapy at the University of Southern Maine. She says dementia affects people differently, and what works for one person may not work with someone else. But she and other experts interviewed for this story say the more tools and support caregivers have, the better. Officials with the Vermont chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, as well as the Massachusetts-New Hampshire chapter, were unaware of these streaming services. But some Vermonters are tuning in. Barnard resident Randall Vaughn was caring for his mother when he heard about Zinnia TV.
It took me all of about 30 seconds to figure out it was something worth investigating and signing up for.
His mother's dementia was advanced, and he says the long-running videos were especially helpful at bedtime. Even though his mother died last year, Vaughn admits he still watches.
To tell you the truth, I don't have dementia as far as I know, but I do watch from time to time. I watched it earlier this week, Zinnia TV, because it is in fact quite relaxing and mellow and very soothing.
And right now, he says, soothing is good. For Vermont Public, I'm Nina Keck.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Bob Kinzel, Michaela Lafrac, Lola Dufour, Abigail Giles, and Kevin Trevelyan. Our executive producer is Kevin Trevelyan, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. Talk to you tomorrow.
This is Tanya Mosley, co-host of Fresh Air. You'll see your favorite actors, directors, and comedians on late-night TV shows or YouTube. But what you get with Fresh Air is a deep dive. Spend some quality time with people like Billie Eilish, Questlove, Ariana Grande, Stephen Colbert, and so many more. We ask questions you won't hear asked anywhere else. Listen to the Fresh Air podcast from NPR and WHYY.